know what you don't know. You may not understand it, but know there are things you don't know and be open to learning those. This is a learning journey. No entrepreneur can tell you that when they've started a business or a company that they really understand it all. Just know that there's stuff you don't know and really be open to learning it.
Alrighty, hello everyone, and welcome to the Deal Maker Show. So today we have a really amazing founder turned, investor, and I think that we're going to be learning quite a bit when it comes to building, scaling, financing, and all of the above. I mean, he's done it very successfully. So first as a founder of a company that reached the finish line with a nice outcome, and then he's now been involved as an investor and an early investor in some incredible success stories such as Discord and you name it. I think that the conversation today is going to be quite inspiring, so brace yourself for that. So without further ado, let's welcome our guest today, Peter Relan. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Alejandro. And I'm glad to be here, honored to be here. You've had some fantastic founders and venture capitalists and entrepreneurs here. So it's a privilege to be here, and I'm looking forward to this. Thanks.
Well, Peter, I wanna start with your early days, right? Because your early days are quite inspiring, obviously quite challenging, when you were really facing them. But you literally were born with no name, in your home. So give us a walk through memory lane, because I'm sure that those early beginnings, I'm sure that they really shaped who you are today.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. I mean, I didn't know that this was a thing until when I got naturalized in the U.S. and they said, "Where's your birth certificate?" And I produced it, and I looked at it, and it literally said, "A boy has been born," but like most birth certificates, it does not. It just had a birth date and parent's name. And I found out after discussing it a little bit that I got my name, and Peter. I was born in Delhi, India, because it was given to me when I first entered school. So we were in a refugee settlement. My parents are homeless refugees from Pakistan who came over to the India side, and they were 17 and 14 at the time, not married, and literally in a refugee camp. And they spent 15 years in refugee camps and settlements. In the process, they got married, but it was poverty. And my dad was a street cleaner. My mother was a seamstress who was not really, it was just on-demand gig kind of work. But they did one thing. I was the fourth child. I was born at home. They just had a child, didn't bother to give it a name. And then in that time period, they slowly saved money, living in poverty, in very slum-like conditions, and then saved enough for a great education for their children. So that whole journey that they went through, I saw just a small piece of it, but it has inspired me to focus on education throughout my life. I got into that school, got the name Peter. It was a Catholic school, and they just said, "Here's a good name, Peter Relan," and stuck. And I just fell in love with education and math, and I did well in math. And then I made myself an immigrant to the U.S. Over time. First coming to UCLA, where I got admission with a great SAT score. And as soon as I got here, I became a math tutor, just to be able to help pay for the bills. So it's a story of literally poverty to where I am today. It's a miracle.
That's no joke. Now, in your case, I mean, you were talking about falling in love with math, quite early, problem solving. I guess obviously that explains a lot of things, right? When we're thinking about your path, but in your case, you came to the U.S. quite early. I mean, you came to do your undergrad at UCLA. So how were you able to really secure that spot, to the land of opportunity here in the U.S.?
Yeah, I had applied to college in India, a very well-known college. It's called IIT. There's a lot of IIT grads here in the Bay Area, New York, everywhere. It starts in July, and I had simultaneously applied to University of California, which starts in October. So I actually started IIT in India. It's just that when I got accepted, I also said, hey, it was really on the back of my education and my SAT scores. I had some financial help from my brother. That was huge because they needed to see some financial resources. So really just being good in school and getting the right scores to get into college as a student at 18. Most immigrants from India come when they finish their undergrad and they come for their grad school work. I was different and unusual, but I took the risk just because I felt like the sooner I made it into the land of opportunity, the story where immigrants can go from rags to riches, etc. And most importantly, because I was leaning towards STEM and technology anyway, and I knew that California, Silicon Valley, and would be where I'd ultimately want to be. So it was very fortunate, but you had to work hard to get into those kind of schools, and I just was lucky as well.
No kidding. Well, like as they say, is preparation meets opportunity. Now, in your case, Peter, what you did is you went, to do, a little bit of work for other companies, for other larger companies, and one, whether it was Hewlett Packard or a PC company. Now, one thing that you did is you went to Stanford and you got your graduate degree there, but instead of like really starting your own thing, you decided to join Oracle, and you did that for a few years, the years of Mark Benioff and all of that good stuff, no? Why did you go into working for somebody else after being in a place like Stanford where you look around and you see the Google, being born, and, it's just like insane. So why Oracle?
That's a great point. When I got to Stanford, I was, in fact, some of the classes we took in venture capital, entrepreneurship, lots of guest speakers were coming, really good ones. Sun Microsystems founder Scott McNeely and people from software industry. They're all coming, giving talks, and you get this feeling that, look, I can start my own company. The reality is that when we were graduating, it is still, it takes a risk orientation. Like I just hadn't done my own startup before. My cohort of people who were with me at Stanford were all interested in doing startups, but the number of people who actually created a startup, right? It's not like the Stanford education is what makes you start a company. You look at so many founders today, they're not going to Stanford and then starting companies. They're not even finishing college and then they drop out and start companies. So it's really important to know that, yes, it's a great launching pad if you are ready. I just don't think that personally I had that passionate idea or that just I'll just dive in and we'll figure out what we're going to do. And in retrospect, I'm fine with that. The reason being, I do think if you're going to start a company, you should have a very passionate idea that you want to pursue because it's not easy. Entrepreneurship, is I found out later is a real roller coaster ride. So it is something that not only your environment, like Stanford as a launching pad, should be giving you preparedness for. You internally have to be prepared to do a startup. And it just so happened that at that time, when I graduated, 1992, Netscape and the internet were happening, and it just looked like everything was moving fast. And of course, I went to Oracle to join the internet division, and that gave me the next time I actually got that feeling I have these ideas to do startups was after that experience. So it was just a timing question, but I'm a believer that you have to have the passion. If you don't do it.
So for you, one of the things that you did is after spending, about 4 years there at Oracle, and there you were doing, stuff around the internet division, you decided to take the route which was, I think, the safest, which is getting a glimpse, of a startup first before you actually launch your own, which I think is an amazing way of doing it. Now, in this case, it was webvan. It was literally the years of craziness. You had diapers, going public, with
Yeah,
not
yeah.
much. I mean, crazy days, right? I guess, how was that journey for you, and what needed to happen for you to be comfortable with the idea of launching your own thing?
Yeah, so Webvan was interesting. When you're working at Oracle, I'm VP of Internet Division. It's like comfortable job. It's happening, of course. Things are moving fast, but it's a large company. And then I get calls from Benchmark and Sequoia, and I meet them. And it's like you said, easiest launching pad is the VCs are recruiting you. There's a founder, Louis Borders. He had founded Borders Books and Music. He's there. There are 3-4 people, so I come in as a founding team member. So it's not starting from scratch, but it is a financed company with Series A, starting to happen. So it all felt, like, hey, I'm doing a startup, but without all the risk of starting from scratch. So it was a kind of a sweet spot. I do think, though, that because of that, it has a downside as well. I mean, it was amazing. Webvan went public. We literally went from Series A to IPO in less than 2 years. And in that time, we built one of the world's largest automated distribution centers, which was part of my job, and the software to run it. Right, I was the CTO and the founding CTO. And now I look back and I realize that I was, on the one hand, given this easy on ramp onto doing a startup. On the other hand, I didn't really understand the business model well. Right, we built it all, and then we went public, and it was like one of the biggest IPOs ever in Silicon Valley. But the business model was definitely lacking, and I'd never paid too much attention to it. That was the lesson, really, right? Because Webvan is simultaneously considered way ahead of its time and a huge success, but also considered a poster child of the dot-com bust, right? So definitely taught me that if you're going to do something with that much passion, and I put so much into that, building the technology, spend a little time on understand the business model, because it can really pay, or it might hurt.
So what was the peak at the value at the what was the peak of the valuation?
It went public at 8 billion and peaked at 12 billion,
That's
which
unbelievable.
in those days was, Netscape, I think, went public at 6 billion. So it was those days, like, it was considered, what, twice the value of Netscape when it went public, right? And then of course it just went downwards after that with the year 2001.
Like
So
everything else. I guess one
everything else, yeah, yeah.
one,
But
one
the technology was acquired by Kaiser Permanente acquired this giant automated distribution center, so we knew we had built something special, right? And they used it for then their hospital supplies and drug delivery and all that stuff.
Now, in your case, I mean, you really got comfortable with that journey because, I mean, you got so comfortable that you decided to actually launch your company on 9/11. I mean, that's
Yes.
that's kind of crazy. So, what was going through your head, to be so like relentless, with the idea of I want to launch this and I want to launch it regardless of what's going on around me.
Yeah, it's an amazing time. I'd left Webvan in about late 2000, and then our second child was coming along, and so May she was born, and then I'd made up my mind that, look, we're going to start a company with a few other co-founders who were from Oracle days. And I was so passionate about the fact that, look, we built this amazing technology, but somehow it didn't work out in the end. We have to do it right now. It was just obsessed with that idea that there must be a way to build amazing technology and yet have some sense of how to make it successful as a business, right? And so it's just an obsession to get it right. And we knew that, okay, this dot-com bust is really hugely bad, and it'll cause a nuclear freeze in the venture capital market for at least 2 3 years. But there will be more business to be done on the internet. So we started this company in September and incorporated it. And 9/11 was the day, 2001, when I woke up and said, okay, company's done. Let's start working today. And I woke up to, obviously, the terrorist attacks in New York, right? And we were just stunned for a minute. I would say days, but that minute where I saw the video, and then we got together and I said, guys, what do you think? And like half the people were like, let's just forget it. This is not, the world is not coming to it's not going to support us. Things that we have no idea what's going to happen. And I said, you know what? If the world just is going to go fall apart, who cares what will happen to a startup? But if the world doesn't, we'll become, one of the most, sort of persevering, most diligent people who have made it through one of the worst downturns in the 21st century. So let's continue. So we made the decision to continue and build our company
Because
on that day. I still remember that conversation.
what was the business model of the company?
That company was online fraud detection. So we had figured out that, hey, now that e-commerce and internet's happening, remember those days people were worried about in their credit cards being stolen on the internet. There was a lot of fraud occurring, and so people weren't willing to put in their credit cards online. Banking was taking off. So we built a technology that could look at the click streams of people in real time doing business on the internet, and we would find signatures of behaviors that were fraudulent. So we called it business signatures, and we would sell enterprise software to the banks that wanted to bring online banking to customers and give them a fraud detection system based on some very early AI. In those days, it was really early AI, but that was the model. Traditional enterprise software sold to banks for a technology that we felt, we had a Stanford professor on our advisory board, a Berkeley professor. So really cool state of the art tech to crack this issue of online banking fraud. And we got Citibank, we got US Bank, USAA, we got all these customers. So we knew we were building something interesting here, which actually could yield, six-figure, seven-figure, revenue contracts.
So actually, it's so interesting that the company ends up getting acquired for over 50 million. I mean, we're talking about someone that was born without a name, at the home, and all of a sudden comes to America. That's the whole dream, and ends up selling his very, own business for over 50 million. I mean, that's quite unbelievable, Peter. Now, how did that happen? How did that transaction come together?
It's a fascinating way. We were not even planning on it. We had raised venture capital money from TPG Ventures and Walden International, which is two well-known firms, and we were just doing business. We were selling our technology, and we had a sales guy who said, there's another company that is a public company, which is trying to crack the same space, but from the different angle. And they want to, just have a conversation to see what else is going on, in your world. And I was right in the middle of raising our Series B at that time. So I thought, okay, why not? Like if it's a financing, maybe, they'll do a financing with us. Sometimes you get a strategic company. And so it was a completely serendipitous discussion that we had with the CEO of this company, Entrust. And he said, listen, you could raise a financing, but we are after the same market you are. I already have $100 million a year business in the same market, selling software to the same. This is the new technology software. I've got the existing customers. Why don't we combine and just So it was just kind of a over dinner discussion, and that's sometimes how some of the best deals happen. Where we thought about it, and my co-founders and I, we said we can go raise money and get bigger, but at the same time, our main competitors, Passmark and Cyota, in those days, had been acquired by RSA, the security company. So we were suddenly staring down our competitive environment was a very large company, and we thought maybe we want the help of a larger company to scale our software. And to this day, I have people and friends who are still working there, and they've got many, many more customers. But it was just over a dinner that we said, okay, this might actually make more sense because we were about to scale our company, right? After the first few customers. And we found a partner who was like, we will help you scale. We have the sales teams, we have all the infrastructure. Why don't we join up? And that's a very common story when you reach that stage is to consider whether you're going to scale it yourself or you're going to partner with somebody who has the distribution channel to scale you, right?
So, as they say, once an entrepreneur, always an entrepreneur. But the next chapter, you decided to take a different blend, right? And that was YouWeb. So, how did the whole idea of YouWeb come together?
So UWeb came together because after doing business signatures, getting acquired, and spending some time there, I realized that I'd love this. I just love this, but I do is the most efficient way of spending my time doing this serial entrepreneurship, or can I do more in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, than serial entrepreneurship, but without necessarily switching. I loved entrepreneurship. I didn't want to be a venture capitalist per se. So at that time, YC had started, Techstars had started, and they were just all getting going in 2005, 2006, and 2006 was when we got acquired. And I thought, I don't really think I want to be a pure investor. I would be willing to put some of the fortunes I had been able to get from the acquisition to work, but not as a venture capitalist per se, but as an entrepreneur. So then we came up with this idea of why don't we create this incubator where people come, they're just tech founders like I am. They hang out, they come up with ideas, we collaborate with them, and then we just kind of co-found a company with them. I can be not involved operationally, but I can be on the board. I can help them raise money. I can help them with their technology strategy. So it became kind of a how do I give to many others the mentoring and my network and some of my skills to do companies, but multiple at the same time. So we invited 6 entrepreneurs in and just said, we'll pay you 1 year of salary. So it wasn't like YC 3-month funding. It was 1 year salary, and we'll give you the same deal as YC. We'll give you 120K in those days. But we'll give you 1 year salary, just figure out what you're going to do. That was kind of the difference, was we actually allowed them to hang out, and then we got to know them, and we got to be friends, and then we got to start companies together.
So, I guess the immediate question that comes to mind is, what did you learn about filtering good ideas from bad ideas? Because I mean, you're so early, you're like at this stage where things may be on a napkin, kind of thing. How do you filter, the good from the bad, and what could be an idea worth exploring, worth investing in, or someone worth investing in, versus maybe like something that you gotta filter quickly and on to the next one.
I think you just you said the answer. Someone worth investing in. So we had very simple criteria. You should be a technologist capable of building. We just believe that. Second, you should have great founder market fit. As an example, right? We had the first incubation was a company by two Australian founders who were actually providing some data to us in the business signatures company on IP address geolocation stuff. And these two people, they really were going after the fraud business, and we were one of the companies they're working with. They came to us after the acquisition and said, "Hey, we don't know if we'll still survive. We used to supply data to you. That contract may go away, but we'd love to do this, continue this fraud." So they become the first incubee. Two engineers who we said want to do fraud detection business of some kind. We didn't know exactly what it was, but they were technical, they had passion for the market, and they understood the market because they were already kind of playing around with this geolocation of IP addresses and botnets and all that stuff. So I really look for the founders first and founder market fit. Always been that works. The idea kind of flows organically out of a founder when they understand either as a consumer their own pain or as founder market fit because they've studied that industry or they've been in that industry. We got into gaming a lot. We got into more fraud detection, and we got into these two fields because most of the people who came at that time, one, the iPhone had just come out, and actually the founder of Discord at that time had started a company. Discord was his second company with us, and he was into gaming. And he looked at the iPhone and said, "That's a great gaming device." The Australian founders said, "Hey, fraud detection is just beginning, so we want to continue doing this." So that's kind of my filter: technologists who have good founder market fit for the idea they're pursuing.
Now, for example, like in the case of Discord, right? I mean, that's a founder that not only you invested when he had his first go at it with Open Fate, but then also when he got at it again with Discord. Open Fate acquired for 200 million. Discord now a valuation of 15 billion, which is kind of crazy. And you've
Open
been
Fate was 100 million, right?
a
104
hun-
million.
a
Yeah.
hundred, 104 million, and then Discord. Now, what do you think are the key traits of a founder like that? Especially when someone, because as they say, once you're lucky, twice you're good. What do
Yeah.
you think? What do you think? Are like the three things that stand out? From someone that is capable of doing that.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so let's talk about the Open Fame guys, right? So Threat Metrics guys, we financed them. I recruited a CEO and then brought in a venture capitalist I know from August Capital. Well, that company, I would say, the founders. I can give you the traits, right? Then I'll talk about Jason and the Discord traits. But those founders, they were absolutely convinced that fraud is a huge problem. So that passion I've talked about, there was never a doubt in their mind that this is a huge problem. Second, clarity of thinking around what needs to be done. There's a lot of founders who don't want to deal or admit the issues they might have to face. What did they have to do in order to make a company successful? They just like close. They don't want to be outside the box. They're like, I this is what I did, and I'm going to stick to this because it's too risky to change or to pivot or to do this or to do that, right? So that's I think really important. And third is you should absolutely know what you're not going to do. One of the big things that I've realized about startups is that focus, 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 and not getting distracted, saying no to things just as much as you say yes, this is. Because passion can be misdirected. You can pick a project or some other left turn path that isn't actually going to be very helpful and is taking your eye off the ball. So I would say this: just the passion, the clarity of thinking in terms of being flexible, etc., to out of the box, how to pivot, etc., and then saying the ability to say no. If you combine those three, I find that it's a very, very repeatable sort of success pattern, right? So the Threat Metrics guys got acquired for 830 million from by LexisNexis. They spent 10 years building that company with a new CEO and venture capital. So, I mean, great outcome, but it took 10 years. But they were absolutely convinced and they built a close to $1 billion outcome, right? Uh, Jason, when he came to UWeb, he was 22 and had worked at a gaming company. He got his first exit of 104 million at 25, 26. So, but he had those three properties: just clear thinking, knowing what he wouldn't do, and a real passion for gaming. And the iPhone had literally just come out, right? And he built the first game for the iPhone. And then he opened it up and made it a developer platform for other game developers. So it was a great sort of repeatable mix of those three qualities.
That's amazing. How many companies did you guys ended up investing, in UWeb? Because that's obviously
We've
17
been
years.
around for 18 years, I would say, and we've done about two companies a year. So it's very steadily about 35 to 40 companies over the years. Right?
That's amazing.
And we've had about seven good exits, and it's like 20%, which is what we expect. We are very good at killing projects. I mean, there are many companies and startups you've never heard of because we just give after a year, we say this doesn't look like it's working, and we have absolutely no bad feelings, no hard feelings, no obligations. Like with other people who walk away, they say, "Hey, nice time at UWeb, 1 year, but I'm moving on." So we're very comfortable with very early stage and backing founders who are interested in doing something, but then walking away after a year. We're okay with that.
Now, in your case, talking about walking, not walking out, but walking in and stepping in. One thing that you've done is really getting excited about education. That's the next phase. That you've chosen as part of your career, and that comes hand in hand with Matt GPT. So, in this case, why education and why Matt GPT and what are you guys doing there?
Yeah. So MadGPT.ai is where I'm currently focusing a lot. It's a project that came to my attention about several years ago. Then when a founder came and the standard application process. So let me take it back to my old personal story. When I came to UCLA, I just to make ends meet, I took on a job as a math tutor, as a STEM tutor actually, but a lot of math. And what I started to notice is in higher education how first year students, second year students were making what I consider life decisions about their major, what they're going to specialize in college, and therefore their careers, based on whether they could get through a midterm or not in math, in some algebra or calculus class. So it occurred to me that there were some real serious life decisions being made, and I was watching them real time and trying to convince them, no, 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 we can help. I can help you crack this class, and you'll be okay if you're a pre med or even, like I said, a psychology, nursing. There are many non-hardcore STEM majors that still need a math course, right? But I was seeing people, switch out and do other stuff, which they could have continued if they had just sort of persevered a little bit more. So it occurred to me that math, and I recently researched it, that close to 90% of all careers require you to take some kind of mathematics in college. It's just incredible how much of a gateway it is to nursing, sports journalism, even physical therapy, even kinesiology, of course, medicine and the sciences. You, it's in so many majors. And when this founder came to me a few years ago and said, "Hey, I want to start a company which is going to focus on AI assisted, conversational tutoring around math and STEM," I basically said, "This is really interesting. AI assisted is great, but we want to do AI someday, full AI." And he said, "Well, it's not here yet, but I'm happy to come here and spend a year launching, this product without full AI." And we did that. And through that, we've collected a lot of data because we have created a network of humans who are doing these conversational tutoring sessions over text message for students all over the country. And we have deals with over 100 colleges today where they give this tutoring service, conversational text message tutoring, to their students. And in that process, we've done over 5 million of these sessions. Now we have all this data. And guess what the big moat is in AI? With generative AI hit, we immediately announced MadGPT.ai in January of 2023. ChatGPT came out in late 22, right? And we said we're gonna be delivering a full AI math tutor to colleges in higher education, and it's been fantastic. We are now in hundreds of classrooms. It's instructor led, Hundreds of colleges are using it. It's not like for cheating and all, it's guardrailed, it's cheat proof. The instructor gives the assignments, and the tutor is there to help the student, which is a personal fulfillment for me to see the same college students that, 40 years ago I was tutoring as a human being with only so much scale. But now we are, as you know, we've already delivered, close to 200,000 AI, completely AI driven, Gen AI driven tutoring sessions to college students all over the country.
So, Peter, you go to sleep tonight and you wake up in a world where MathGPT is fully realized. What does that world look like?
That world looks like what I call universal math education. Every child in the world. We have a free version of the product and we have a paid version for colleges. The free version is one where the instructor can adopt it and show the students what is possible with AI today. The paid version is where they can do the whole course and course management and AI running the classroom under their supervision. I would like every, let's say from 10th grade on, every student, every learner in the world to have access to it. So everybody has confidence that they can, it's not just about what career you're going to have. When you buy insurance, there's some math behind it. When you buy a CD, there's some math behind it. When you go get a home mortgage, there's some math behind it. There's so many things that you do in life without recognizing how much math is pervasive everywhere. The way to think about a problem, a financial decision, a purchase, it's a mathematical world we live in. It's just truth. There is also an emotional world and a creative world, but so much of life is decided in most societies based on economics, right? So we want every student from 10th grade on to never have to think that, oh, I'm not good at math. You know how everybody has that feeling, I just can't handle that. We never want that. Yes, you may choose not to be a STEM major because you have a passion for art history or for sociology, but not because you say, I don't have a choice. You should have that choice. We want MagicBee.ai in every student's hands, everywhere.
Beautiful. Now, I want to put you into a time machine. Okay, Peter? So I'm putting you into a time machine right now, and I'm bringing you back in time. I'm bringing you back to that moment where you were thinking about launching your first business. Now you were coming, in a great shape, after your IPO and seeing everything around you. Obviously now a little bit nervous because of what's going on with 9/11 and the environment. But let's say you're able to show up right there with that younger Peter, and you're able to give that younger Peter one piece of advice before launching a business. What would that be, and why, given what you know now?
I have a very important piece of advice. Know what you don't know. You may not understand it, but know there are things you don't know, and be open to learning those. This is a learning journey. No entrepreneur can tell you that when they've started a business or a company, that they really understand it all. Just know that there's stuff you don't know and really be open to learning it. It's very difficult to thread the needle between the confidence of an entrepreneur who says, yeah, I know what I'm doing, and simultaneously have a personality of a little bit of paranoia and a little bit of I don't really know what I don't know. How could I? Right? Because my brain doesn't understand yet. At that age, in my 30s, I didn't know what I know today. I just have to know that I don't know that stuff because it keeps you simultaneously, your confidence, if you're an entrepreneur, will get you to a certain point. But that humility will allow you to learn and adjust and hone your skills as you go along. I would say that's the number one thing I have to offer today.
Beautiful. Peter, for the people that are listening that would love to reach out and say hi, what is the best way for them to do so?
Peter at youwebinc.com. YOUWEBINC.com. And I want to add one last thing about the MagicPT.ai. We don't want to automate away instructors and teachers. When I say I want MagicPT in every student's hand, I want it in every classroom and every instructor and every tutor who's reaching out to a student. We want it to be instructor or tutor led because I do think there is a lot of wisdom. Artificial intelligence is intelligence, but humans have wisdom. And that's why we want them to give it to their students because it's a combination that'll really change the world.
Love it. Well, Peter, on behalf of everyone, on behalf of myself, I want to say thank you so much for being on the Deal Maker Show today. It has been an absolute honor to have you with us.
No, the honor is mine. Thank you very much.